Hi, good morning. Bringing you the Joy Business Report lovingly. Like Kujo says, welcome everyone. Coming out this morning, Ghana to secure more funding from the International Monetary Fund after the board of the fund approved a proposal to increase member quota by 50%. Also, ahead of the 2024 budget, government aired to review indirect taxes to give some relief to businesses whilst making them more effective. And players in the tourism and hospitality sector appealed to government to consider consolidating the numerous taxes in the industry ahead of the 2024 budget presentation. Details coming up. Welcome. Hi to you if you're listening from Kofu Radio on KTU Radio. My name is Darryl Kwan. First up, Ghana's ability to secure more funding and borrow from the International Monetary Fund in the coming months has been given a major boost after the Executive Board approved a proposal to increase allocation to members by 50%. Here's George Jaffe.
The IMF quota can be linked to the voice, the power that each member has within the group, or its ability to draw down on IMF resources. It could also be linked to how much a member country can contribute to the IMF. The quota influences the special drawing rights of each member in terms of the amount of money that country can get from the IMF. Ghana recently secured $3 billion as part of the IMF program. However, some raised questions about the amount that Ghana got. But for some, it is all about this quota. So with this development, if Ghana in future gets another program, it should be able to get more funding from the IMF. If the IMF decides to share some profits or support some of its members, including Ghana, the country could get more funding from the IMF. But looking at the country's current debt levels, should we be excited about this development? And should Ghana take advantage of this to borrow more when the opportunity presents itself? The IMF board is expected to meet on November 22 to approve the second tranche of funds of $600 million. That is, if Ghana is able to secure the financing assurance from its bilateral creditors.
George, I feel with that report. Now, some tax analysts have suggested that it is time for government to review the indirect tax regime to give some fiscal space to businesses to grow. According to them, the 2024 budget, scheduled to be presented in the middle of November, can provide the right atmosphere to send a good signal to businesses struggling as a result of consumption tax. Speaking to Joy Business, tax analyst Francis Timoboy argued that it would be prudent to always assess the effect of taxes on consumers and businesses to make them more effective.
Indirect tax affects everybody. And so, yes, we have seen some indirect tax policies that have been rolled out. We believe, or I personally believe, that we need to, reshape those taxes. For example, in 2018, we decoupled the VAT from the GET Fund and NHIL. That created a whole cost component, about 6% for businesses. Businesses are supposed to be producing unit, they are not consumers. And so mostly if you pass an indirect tax, it's supposed to be paid by the consumer. But if you allow them to keep those costs, it increases the cost of production. And if they are unable to pass it on to consumers, at the end of the day, then you are crippling the production unit. Meanwhile, the tax is supposed to be paid by consumers. And that's a problem. So we've argued that, look, let businesses get a deduction of those cost component. That's why these businesses are, crying.
You heard tax analyst Francis Timoboy. Now, economist Professor Ebu Texin is asking government to show commitment by reducing the size of state institutions as a way to reduce costs on the public purse. According to him, the upcoming 2024 budget and economic policy must be used as a channel to streamline government operations to reduce expenditure. Professor Texin was contributing to the State of the Ghanaian Economy report by the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research in Accra.
What is important for government to do is to show that commitment, at least in cutting down on the size of government. I mean, it's not just reducing discretionary expenditure by 30%. We still see the V8s all over the place. When the ministers are moving, President is moving, a long convoy of them. They come with cost. So if we could begin to rationalize even the number of government functionaries, ministers who are on government's on the payroll, that will give a signal to even other public sector institutions to also do something about cutting down the wastage.
Economist Professor Ebo Texan there. Still on the 2024 budget, players in the tourism and hospitality sector appealing to government to consider consolidating the numerous taxes in the industry. They say some of the taxes can be merged since they all serve the same purpose. Dr. Edward Akanyamike Jr. is president of the Ghana Hotels Association.
We are trying to appeal to government to look at the tax regime. You see, we are looking at a situation where it will even be possible to consolidate the various taxes that we pay, consolidate it at a certain flat rate. So that when you are in the hotel industry or tourism industry, this is a one-stop tax that you pay that covers everything at a level that will encourage investment, that will also encourage patronage and all that. Let's come to one sum of a tax, okay, through the industry that will cover all these NHIL, get fund, 1% tourism, at a level that will help the industry, not all these several taxes.
You heard Dr. Edward Akanyamike Jr., president of the Ghana Hotels Association. Now, the Bank of Ghana is advising consumers to be careful of whom they guarantee loans for. According to the central bank, the guarantor will be compelled to repay the loan with accrued interest if the borrower fails to honor the obligation. Now, in a notice, the regulator of the banking industry also advised the guarantor to assess the repayment capabilities of the borrower before guaranteeing any credit facility or loan. It urged consumers not to rush to guarantee for borrowers and sign off on the documents, but rather obtain and study the loan agreement to ensure that they understand the terms and conditions. Moving on, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says government will invest hugely in the Development Bank Ghana to support the private sector in order for the country to achieve macroeconomic stability. According to him, the government is poised to bridge the gap between the banking sector and industry. He explains the government will allocate some funds to cushion the operations of indigenous businesses.
We'll continue to reposition the Development Bank of Ghana, which is going to be a critical partner in bringing in funds that are appropriate, long-term, accessible for the banks to be given to industry, support the development of key fiscal and digital infrastructure to ease the process of doing business and reduce transaction costs, guarantee renewable energy supply and promote equitable distribution to support industrial expansion and bring a new culture to our institutions which respects the clients, that is the private sector.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta there. Now, during his nutrition course in medical school, Dr. Kwamna Asan realized there are major nutrients that could easily be obtained naturally from plant foods without supplements. Infants came to mind, and he began working on a recipe that birthed Sanaba baby cereal. The Joy Business van visits his production facility today to learn more. Here's a bit of what to expect. All right, so the process begins from here where we wash the grains. Yeah. And so we are done washing the grains. This is
black eyed pea.
Yeah. And so we are going to transfer it here, and then it goes
out to dry.
Yeah. So let's do that. We are at the production facility from Home Food Processing and Packaging Enterprise. Chief Executive Dr. Kwame Asan will show us how his flagship product, Sanaba Baby Cereal, is produced, an idea that came to him while he was studying in China.
We had a course which was nutrition. So during that course, reading the notes, I realized how important we can get nutrients from plants and how those nutrients were vital. So it just came to my mind, why don't you do something for babies? I realized mothers were looking for something healthy, but then they had no option than to just pick what was on the market. So I realized if we could bring something that is healthy, the parents were going to accept.
All right, make a date. 1 p.m. right after the Joy Business Report, 5 p.m. on Business Live.